This is what we're going to make today. It's a parts tumbler, and it just uses a 5-gallon bucket. And this one just holds the bucket. I've got another one here, and I could have several of these if I wanted to. But that way you can load your parts and take them out and do what you want and bring them back. And you just slip it up in there. It kind of has a friction fit. And you tumble what you want. Probably have a lid on here. It's got a nice quiet motor on it. The pulley runs off of a disc I made out of some MDF back here. Round polyurethane belting. I had to make this speed reduction shaft because my motor was turning faster than I had expected. This is in a different video how I made that. All right, let's get started. Now to make the axle for this thing, I've just got a piece of pipe that was the appropriate size. And then I'm taking some old used trailer bearings. You know, you take these things out and a lot of times they look like they're perfectly fine. Maybe a little bit of wear on them or something like that. But, you know, this is not going to have anywhere near the stress on it that a trailer does. It's not going to be turning very fast. So the bearings really aren't all that important. And like I said, they look like they're in fine shape. So I'm going to use them on here. Now I've taken this piece of pipe and then taken a bearing on each end, as you can see there, put a washer on it, and some all thread. So I've got them on there nice and tight where they're not going to move. And what I'm going to do is weld these on there. Now, welding the race of a bearing is not the smartest thing to do because a lot of times you can warp it and mess it up. You really just want to put some type of a cup where you're pressing it in there. But I didn't have a piece of pipe big enough for that. And like I said, this is not going to be turning fast or have a lot of stress on it, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just lightly tack a few places around the outside, and that's all I'm going to do. Now I forgot to say I did put this pipe in the lathe and I got these ends nice and flat, so these should be aligned pretty well. If I didn't have that ability, I probably would have trued them up on a belt sander or something like that, but this worked out really well. Alright, and I think that's all I'm going to do. Alright, so it's cooled down and my bearings still run nice and smooth in there. So I think I'm good to go. Now, in order to tighten this bearing up, so you'll have one at the top, and I'll put a ring right here so that it'll press against the top one as this pulls down, and then I'm going to have another bearing at the bottom like this, and then I need some way to tighten this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bolt up in there, and then I cut a piece of pipe that'll slide over this, put a washer on that, and then I can pull this up and get this as tight as I want it to be. So I just got to get this put up in there. Now what I did was I've put some nuts and washers on here just to get this in the center of this pipe. So now I've just got to press this up in there and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's what it looks like pressed up in there, and now I'm just going to put a little bit of a weld on there to keep this from turning when I need to adjust it. Alright, so here's the plate that's going to bolt to the bottom of the bucket, and then here's our axle, and I'm just going to get it, I've scribed a circle right there, and I drilled a little hole that's going to help me locate this later. Alright, now I need to try to get this perfectly vertical. Okay, I think that's really good. Alright, just for fun I decided to stick it in the lathe to see how true it is. And there seems to be very little wobble, if any at all. So this is going to be great. Alright, I think we got all the parts to our axle. I added the collar up there at the top, right there. And so we put our first bearing on. That stops it. Next bearing. There. Our collar to push up on that bearing. A washer. A jam nut. All right, once we get those greased, I think that's going to work really well. All right, well, hope this part was interesting to you. Be sure you watch the other parts of this series. Thank you for watching.